The galaxy had always believed that humanity was quiet, small, and insignificant. From the farthest edges of the Valon Empire to the luminous halls of the Lumari Council, the report was the same. Humans were weak. They had no fleets to rival, the great armadas of the stars, no weapons capable of turning planets to dust, and no technology advanced enough to challenge the ancients. They were fragile beings, clinging to a blue planet that seemed more like a jewel than a home. Commander, Thalnir of the Valons leaned over his console, his slender limbs brushing softly against the smooth alloy. His multifaceted eyes reflected the stars as he read the reports about humanity's latest attempts to explore their own solar system. "They expand slowly," he said, his voice a low hiss that rippled through the room like wind in a canyon. "They send satellites. They build small ships. They do not threaten us. They will speak only through words, and words are meaningless in war." Around him, the other council members laughed softly. The Lumari's glowing heads shimmered with amusement, their tendrils moving in rhythmic curiosity. Even the Shikari, whose claws could crush steel, smiled with quiet disdain. The galaxy had decided. Humanity was a species that would stay silent, forever. But the Council's confidence was built on observation, not understanding. They saw the humans' calm cities, their bustling streets, and their art, and they assumed these things were all they had to offer. They did not see the hidden forges beneath mountains, the enormous factories buried in deserts, or the silent laboratories orbiting Earth in cloaked stations. They did not see the humans' quiet determination, the stubborn fire that had kept them alive through thousands of years of natural disasters, wars, plagues, and famine. On the surface, Earth appeared, peaceful. Children played in parks, birds soared across skies streaked with sunlight, and cities hummed with routine. But under the calm, something had been growing, a force that no one in the galaxy had expected. Massive warships were being built. Some were small and fast, designed for cunning strikes. Others were colossal, armored like mountains, carrying energy weapons that could shatter moons. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked in unison, driven not by ambition, but by necessity. Humanity would no longer be ignored. Lieutenant Kara, Voss stood in the cockpit of her fighter on a launch platform high above the Pacific Ocean. Her hands rested on the controls, and her heart beat with a mixture of fear and excitement. The stars stretched endlessly before her, black and beautiful. She whispered softly to herself, "Let them come. Let them see what we are." Her voice trembled, but not from doubt. It trembled from pride. Pride in her species, pride in her, world pride in the knowledge that humans were no longer weak. The humans had spent centuries studying the galaxy. They had watched as other civilizations rose and fell, had recorded every lesson and every mistake. They had created warships that were unpredictable, weapons that could strike with precision, and shields that could resist unimaginable forces. Every detail had been calculated, every plan rehearsed, yet nothing could capture the humans' greatest strength, their spirit. On the Council's homeworld, discussions continued, full of laughter and condescension. "They are nothing," said Thalnir again, brushing a gloved hand across the console. "Even if they build fleets, even if they make weapons, they cannot possibly challenge us. Their minds are limited. Their bodies are limited. Their courage is irrelevant." Meanwhile, deep beneath the mountains of Earth, massive starships rumbled as they completed their final checks. Engines glowed, weapons hummed, and shields rippled with energy. Scientists monitored systems, soldiers trained relentlessly, and leaders coordinated movements that would soon sweep across the stars. Humanity's patience had limits, and the galaxy's ignorance had crossed every line. Kara Voss's eyes glistened as she remembered stories her grandfather had told her, stories of Earth's past wars, when humans had been forced to fight for survival with nothing but ingenuity and heart. She thought of the countless lives lost in defense of their homes, the sacrifices made in silence, and the courage that had kept them alive when all odds seemed impossible. Every mission she undertook, every flight she would make, carried the weight of all those who had come before her. As night fell on the earth below, Lights sparkled like scattered stars across the land. The humans did not sleep. Engineers checked every system, commanders studied every map, and fighters like Kara prepared to fly into the darkness of space, ready to meet the galaxy's expectations head-on. They would not whisper. They would not bow. They would not submit. The galaxy expected humanity's silence. It expected patience, weakness, and compliance. It expected words, and perhaps protests, and nothing more. But humanity had a different plan. Beneath calm eyes, beneath ordinary faces, under quiet cities and calm oceans, the humans were ready. The warships that slept in hidden hangars were only the beginning. When the time came, humanity's voice would thunder across the stars, loud, proud, and unstoppable. And somewhere in orbit, Lieutenant Kara Voss gripped the controls of her fighter, took a deep breath, and whispered once more, "Let them come." The galaxy's silence was about to end. The first ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like jewels of light, shimmering against the dark expanse of space. They were elegant, enormous, and terrifying in their perfection. The Council's delegation had arrived. The Vaylons, their slender limbs glowing with inner light. The Shakari, their jagged exoskeletons gleaming like black metal. And the Lumari, floating with their radiant heads pulsating softly, all expected the same thing: silence, submission, humanity's quiet surrender. But the humans were not silent. Across the sky, hidden from alien sensors for decades, massive warships activated their engines. The hidden hangars opened like yawning mouths of metal, and one by one, colossal vessels emerged from beneath oceans, deserts, and orbiting stations. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, terrifying, yet beautiful, glowing with energy that hummed like a living heartbeat. Humanity's patience had reached its limit. The warships were not just machines, they were declarations. Admiral Ryan Hale stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, his gray eyes scanning the approaching alien fleet. His face was calm, but inside a storm of emotions raged. Pride, fear, determination, and hope all collided within him. "Prepare the greeting," he said, his voice steady. "But let it be clear. We do not bow. We do not negotiate our worth. Humanity speaks with strength now." Lieutenant Kara Voss sat in her fighter, suspended in a launch bay above the Atlantic Ocean. Her hands hovered over the controls as she watched the alien fleet's lights grow brighter, closer. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. She thought of Earth, of her parents, of the generations who had fought silently for survival. And she thought of all the stories that had told her humans were nothing, weak and small. "They will see us," she whispered. "They will see who we are." The first human vessels leaped into space, engines blazing with energy that warped the darkness around them. The alien sensors screamed at the sight. The Council had never faced ships like these, massive vessels, armored with energy shields, equipped with weapons that could annihilate entire fleets. And yet their design was chaotic, almost alive, reflecting the unpredictable minds of their creators. The Vaylon's commander, Thalnir, raised his claw to his forehead, blinking in disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. They have fleets. They have weapons. They fight ready?" The Lumari emissary's voice echoed in the Council's comm channels, trembling despite their usual calm. "We were misled. Humanity is not what we believed." Admiral Hale signaled the fleet to move. Formation after formation of human warships aligned with precise coordination that felt natural, almost organic. They did not move like machines. They moved like a single organism, each vessel responding to the others with anticipation and trust. Kara felt a surge of awe and responsibility as her fighter joined the formation. This was her first real mission, her first step into a war that would determine humanity's place among the stars. The Council had believed in their own arrogance. They had expected humans to whisper, to beg, to hide. Instead, the humans surged forward, a tidal wave of steel and fire. Energy beams flared across space, sensors scanning for threats, weapons charging with lethal precision. The galaxy's assumption of silence had been a grave mistake. Admiral Hale's voice came over the comms. "We have observed your fleets for long enough. You have underestimated us. You have assumed patience is weakness. It is not. This is your first warning." Kara's fighters streaked past colossal warships, weaving through space debris and glimmering shields. The aliens hesitated, unsure whether to respond with force or retreat. Every hesitation was a victory for humanity. Every calculated movement by a human pilot, every synchronized attack pattern shattered the aliens' expectations. In the heart of the fleet, Admiral Hale looked at the screens showing alien reactions. For the first time he saw fear, not panic, but recognition. The galaxy was finally seeing what humans had always known. They were not weak, they were not small, and they would not be ignored. From Earth's orbit, a silent message broadcast. To all ships, human and alien alike. We have prepared. We have waited. And now, the galaxy will hear our voice. Kara Voss felt her chest tighten as the first alien ship slowed. Patterns. They were surprised, confused, scared. Humanity's arrival was not a negotiation. It was a challenge, a statement of existence. And the humans were ready to back it with everything they had. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as human warships ignited their engines fully, leaving streaks of light across the void. The Council's delegation had believed they faced whispers. Instead, they faced a roar, a storm of life, courage, and defiance. Somewhere deep in the fleet, Kara thought of all the generations who had been counted out, all the people who had been told they were insignificant. She thought of Earth, blue and beautiful, hanging fragile in the void. And she whispered again, this time louder. "We are here. We will not be silenced. We will not be ignored." And in that moment, the galaxy understood just a fraction of what humanity had become. The warships were not just metal and energy. They were voices, hearts, and souls, all united in a single undeniable truth. Humanity would no longer be a whisper. The silence of the stars shattered. Humanity had arrived. The calm before the storm lasted only moments. Human and alien fleets hovered in the void, massive ships glinting like jewels against the darkness of space. The Council had expected hesitation, negotiation, perhaps even a quiet retreat from the humans. They had expected nothing, but humanity had other plans. Admiral Ryan Hale stood on the bridge of Resolute, his hands resting lightly on the console. Every sensor beeped with activity, every screen showed alien formations, every heart in the human fleet pulsed with anticipation. "Prepare the first strike," he said calmly. His voice was steady, but beneath it lay a force older than any weapon, the determination of a species that had survived against impossible odds. Lieutenant Kara Voss gripped the controls of her fighter, her knuckles white. Her heart raced, but not with fear. It raced with pride, courage, and something fierce that no alien calculation could predict. "All systems ready," she whispered into the comms, her voice soft yet steady. "Let's show them who we are." The human warships moved as one, a fluid, unstoppable force. Their weapons hummed, energy building like storms ready to break. Alien sensors struggled to track them, their calculations thrown into chaos by the unpredictable movements and formations of the human fleet. They had never faced a species that did not act like the others, a species that did not follow patterns or rules of war they understood. The first plasma beams cut through space like lightning, searing the hull of a Valon cruiser. Explosions bloomed like supernovas, debris scattering in slow arcs. Kara's fighter dodged a counterattack, weaving through a storm of energy blasts. The aliens were precise, disciplined, but the humans were unpredictable. They moved with instinct, creativity, and the courage that only came from knowing what they were fighting for. On the bridge of Resolute, Admiral Hale's eyes scanned the battlefield. Reports came in rapidly. Alien ships were damaged. Some were retreating, others were confused. Humanity had not attacked to conquer. They attacked to declare themselves alive, to announce that the galaxy's assumptions were wrong. Every strike carried the weight of Earth, of generations of humans who had endured suffering and had refused to bow. Kara's fighter sliced past an enemy cruiser, releasing a pulse that disrupted its energy shields. The cruiser shuddered and emitted a burst of fire that lit the void. She could see the alien pilots inside, their compound eyes widening in disbelief. They had underestimated humanity. They had thought this species would submit quietly. Now they realized their mistake, and too late. In another sector, human destroyers released swarms of drones that tore into alien hulls, dismantling defenses with precision. The aliens' formation faltered. They tried to regroup, but every maneuver was anticipated, countered, and disrupted by humans who had studied every possible tactic and yet refused to be bound by them. Every attack, every defensive move, was infused with instinct, emotion, and a determination that machines could not replicate. Lieutenant Kara Voss felt her fighter shudder as another ship exploded nearby. She barely flinched. The noise, the chaos, the heat of battle, all of it was terrifying, yes, but also exhilarating. Every human pilot knew the risks. Every human ship that launched into the void carried with it the hopes of an entire species. And now, they were proving that humanity was more than whispers, more than weak flesh and bone. Humanity was thunder across the battlefield. Admiral Hale issued commands with quiet authority, each order precise yet flexible. Cover the flank, protect the drones, keep the enemy in disarray. We fight not just to survive, but to show the galaxy that we exist. His words were not just strategy. They were history being written, declaration being made, pride being displayed. Alien fleets tried to respond, their vast armadas moving with speed and precision, but they were unprepared for the unpredictability of humans. Every pattern they tried to impose was broken. Every calculation failed. Human fighters danced through energy fields like birds in a storm, striking at weak points, then disappearing before retaliation could come. It was chaos, and it was beautiful. In the heart of the battle, Kara remembered her grandfather's stories. Humans who had fought without hope, yet never surrendered. Humans who had survived famine, plague, fire, and flood. Humans who had stood when all the world told them to kneel. That courage, that stubborn will to live and to fight flowed through her now. Her pulse matched the rhythm of her fighter's engines. Every move, every shot, every evasive maneuver was infused with legacy. The first strike ended not in silence but in astonishment. Alien ships were damaged, some destroyed, some retreating, and all were shaken. They had expected a whisper. They had met a roar. The galaxy had assumed humans would submit, would negotiate, would be ignored. Instead, humans had shown that they could fight, adapt, and survive against impossible odds. Admiral Hale looked out into space, watching the alien formations retreat slowly. His hands relaxed on the console. His heart swelled not with triumph, but with solemn pride. Humanity had made its first mark among the stars. They had spoken not with words, but with action. The galaxy had expected silence. Humanity had given fire. Kara Voss exhaled slowly, her fighter gliding among the stars, surrounded by the wreckage of alien arrogance. She thought of Earth below, the people who had never known this moment, the generations who would inherit the galaxy now aware of humanity's presence. She whispered almost to herself, "We are not weak. We never were. And we will never be silent again." The first strike had ended, the war had just begun, and the galaxy had already learned one truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The battle had slowed, but the galaxy was beginning to realize something it had never expected. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not rely on sheer numbers nor on overwhelming technology alone. They fought with something else, something that no scanner, no algorithm, no ancient wisdom could measure. Humans fought with heart. Admiral Ryan Hale walked across the bridge of Resolute, his boots echoing softly against the steel floors. He paused to look at the crew, each of them tense but determined. Some were young, barely out of training. Others bore the scars of past conflicts, memories etched into their faces, yet all were united. All carried the same fire, the refusal to be dismissed, the pride in their species and the courage to face the impossible. "We are not just machines," Hale said softly, more to himself than anyone else. "We are more than metal, more than weapons. We fight because we care, because we must, because no one else will stand for us if we do not stand for ourselves." Lieutenant Karavos floated in her fighter cockpit, watching alien ships retreat and regroup. She noticed something that others might have missed: the way alien eyes, compound or glowing orbs, widened in surprise, confusion, even fear. Humanity had shattered their assumptions not with diplomacy or surrender, but with action that was unpredictable, flexible, and above all, human. "Command, this is Voss Squadron," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We've spotted stragglers trying to flank our left. Shall we engage?" "Do it," came Hale's response. "Show them why we endure." Kara's fighter surged forward, weaving around debris and exploding energy fields. Each move was instinctive, informed by both training and intuition, honed through centuries of survival. The humans had survived famine, natural disasters, wars, and disease, and all that experience shaped the way they fought. Not blindly, but with a sense of timing, courage, and improvisation that no alien could anticipate. Across the battlefield, human warships coordinated in ways that seemed almost alive. A massive dreadnought would shield smaller ships as they launched precision attacks, while others created false patterns to confuse the enemy. No alien had ever seen tactics so chaotic, and yet so perfect. And behind every calculated move was emotion, hope, fear, loyalty, courage, infusing every decision, every shot, every evasive maneuver. Even the Council's most rigid thinkers began to notice. Commander Thalnir paced the bridge of his command ship, claws tapping nervously against the metal. They fight differently," he hissed. "It's not just strategy. It's something else, something human." A Lumari emissary floated near him, tendrils twitching in confusion. I cannot quantify it. Their attacks are not predictable. Their responses are instinctive, emotional, and yet effective, beyond calculation." The Shikari commander growled in frustration. "We haven't ever faced such unpredictability. It is infuriating." Meanwhile, on Earth and in orbit, the humans continued their actions with resolve. Every ship that launched, every pilot that maneuvered, carried with it the legacy of a species that had refused to be silenced. Soldiers and engineers worked in harmony. Scientists calculated patterns of attack and defense, and leaders coordinated the chaos into an organized storm of purpose. Kara thought of her friends back on Earth, the people who had never left the planet but who had built the ships, coded the systems, and sent her into this battle. She thought of children who would grow up hearing of this day, of humanity's arrival in the stars. She felt their pride and their hope with her, guiding every decision, every movement. "Focus, Voss!" Her squad leader's voice broke through her thoughts. "We protect the flank. We keep the enemy from regrouping." "Yes, sir," she replied. And she moved with precision, instinct, and a courage that had been taught and inherited across generations. The humans' resilience became more than a tactic. It became a symbol. Every ship that survived, every strike that succeeded, sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not silent. And humanity could not be ignored. In the Council's war room, debates grew heated. "We underestimated them," a Valon officer admitted. "We calculated wrong. We cannot predict them. We cannot control them. They are different." "Yes," Thalnir agreed, his usual arrogance replaced by unease. "They fight with emotion. They fight with loyalty. They fight with hope. And for some reason, that makes them stronger than we expected." Admiral Hale looked out the viewport, at the stars streaked with light from the ship's engines. The humans had survived the first strike. They had survived the chaos of the battlefield, and had proven that courage and heart could be as deadly as any weapon. The galaxy had expected silence. Instead, it had witnessed humanity. Caravos felt a quiet thrill course through her. She had survived, yes, but more than that. She had participated in something bigger than herself. Humanity was no longer an underestimated species. They had shown the galaxy that they were alive, that they would fight, and that they could not be ignored. For the first time, a thought crossed her mind, clear and shining. Humanity was not just participating in this war, they were changing the rules of it. And no matter what came next, the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The stars shimmered above her, but for the first time, they seemed to shine back, as if acknowledging the presence of a species that had refused to whisper. Humanity had arrived. Humanity had endured. And humanity had shown the galaxy the truth. To underestimate humans was to invite disaster. And somewhere deep in space, the Council began to realize that this war would be unlike any they had ever faced. The Council's chambers buzzed with unease. Beings from the far corners of the galaxy argued, shouted, and gestured, their voices echoing across the vast hall. The Vaylons, the Shikari, and the Lumari were all present, each convinced of their superiority, yet all shaken by what they had witnessed. Humanity, the species they had dismissed, had survived the first strike. They had not only survived, they had fought back. Commander Thalnir paced in front of the council dais, his multiple eyes narrowing with frustration. "We miscalculated," he hissed, his voice sharp as the metallic tap of his claws against the floor. "They are not weak. They do not act predictably. Their attacks, their defenses, everything is unpredictable. They fight with something we cannot control or calculate." A Lumari emissary floated nearby, tendrils twitching nervously. "It is not just unpredictability," they said. "They fight with emotion, loyalty, courage. Their tactics are shaped by hope, by fear, by determination. It is incomprehensible. We cannot simulate it. We cannot predict it. We cannot fight it with our usual strategies." The Shikari leader growled, snapping a claw against the floor. "We are the most disciplined, most advanced forces in the galaxy. And yet, they endure. They adapt. They survive. They do not fear death the way we expect. They fight for something deeper than strategy. This is infuriating." The Council had expected silence from humanity, compliance, maybe even negotiation. They had expected humanity to bow quietly, to yield without a fight. But what they faced instead was a species that would not be ignored, a species that refused to kneel. The Council had seen their ships destroyed, their formations broken, their confidence shaken. For the first time, they questioned everything they had believed about humans. Meanwhile, in space, the human fleet continued its relentless advance. Admiral Ryan Hale stood on the bridge of Resolute, eyes scanning the stars, fingers lightly resting on the console. "Prepare the next phase," he commanded, his voice calm but resolute. "We fight not to dominate but to survive. And if the galaxy will not listen to words, it will hear our actions." Lieutenant Kara Voss tightened her grip on the controls of her fighter. She watched alien ships try to regroup, their precision faltering against the humans' adaptability. Each human squadron acted not just with training but with instinct, improvisation, and courage. Every pilot carried the memory of Earth, of generations who had endured countless hardships and had never surrendered. Each move, each maneuver, was infused with humanity itself. Human warships unleashed targeted strikes with unerring precision, but they also protected each other, shielding weaker vessels and coordinating attacks in ways the Council had never imagined. Drones swarmed alien formations, confusing sensors, disrupting shields, and tearing through defenses with unexpected patterns. Every action was calculated yet flexible, deliberate yet instinctive. Back in the Council chambers, panic began to rise. "We cannot stop them with our usual tactics," admitted a Vaylon officer, his wings twitching nervously. "They anticipate, adapt, and strike in ways we cannot predict. They are beyond our calculations." Commander Thalnir's claws clenched. They are not just strong, they are different. Their courage, their loyalty, their ability to endure and fight despite fear, it is unnatural. It is human. The realization settled over the council like a shadow. Humanity was not merely another species. It was a force that could not be tamed or controlled, a species that fought not for conquest but for survival, for dignity, for recognition. And in that, the council saw something terrifying. The humans could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. On the battlefield, Kara and her squadron executed a daring maneuver, drawing alien ships into a trap. Energy beams flared, explosions rippled across space, and alien formations faltered. The humans fought not just with technology, but with creativity, intuition, and courage that no calculation could anticipate. Every move was alive with emotion, with legacy, with the memory of generations who had refused to be silenced. Admiral Hale watched the reports flood in. Ships that had been expected to fail were still moving, still fighting. Human engineers had repaired damage even in the heat of battle. Human medics had saved lives in impossible conditions, and human pilots had pressed forward when the odds were hopeless. It was not luck. It was not mere skill. It was humanity itself, unyielding, unstoppable, undeniable. Somewhere in the galaxy, alien soldiers whispered in disbelief. "They fight with their hearts," said one. "Not just their minds. They are something we cannot understand." Hale turned to his crew, eyes fierce and proud. "Remember this moment," he said. "We are not just fighting to survive. We are showing the galaxy that humanity exists, that we endure, that we will never be silenced. Every ship, every pilot, every person aboard these vessels represents more than themselves. They represent Earth, our home, and the spirit of every human who came before us. Fight with that in your hearts." Kara felt a surge of determination. She thought of the stories her grandfather had told, of humans who had stood against impossible odds on their homeworld. And she realized humanity was not just a species. Humanity was a statement, a force, a voice that would not be ignored. The Council had underestimated them. The galaxy had expected silence, but humanity had proven that silence was impossible. They had survived the first strike, adapted to chaos, and now the Council understood. Humans were different, unpredictable, and unstoppable. And somewhere deep in the void of space, the human fleet surged forward, engines blazing, weapons humming, hearts beating with courage. They were ready for whatever came next. Humanity had survived the first wave of judgment, and now the galaxy would see the true measure of their power. The Council had made one terrible mistake. They had assumed patience was weakness. Humanity had turned that assumption into strength, and the galaxy was only beginning to understand the consequences. The human fleet moved like a storm across the void, engines blazing trails of blue and gold that cut through the darkness. Every vessel, from the smallest fighter to the colossal dreadnoughts, carried the same mission: survival, defiance, and proof that humanity would never be silenced. The galaxy had assumed humans would submit quietly. Now it faced a force it could neither predict nor control. Admiral Ryan Hale stood on the bridge of Resolute, eyes fixed on the alien fleets ahead. The reports flickered across the screens. Damaged ships, retreating formations, confused enemy commanders. Yet Hale's expression remained calm, resolute. He knew that this was not just another battle. It was the turning point. The moment where humanity's voice would thunder across, undeniable and unyielding. "Prepare the final strike," he said, his voice low but steady. "We do not fight to conquer. We fight to be seen, to be recognized, to survive. Today, the galaxy will understand humanity." Lieutenant Kara Voss gripped the controls of her fighter, her knuckles white. She had survived countless drills and simulations, but nothing could prepare her for the intensity of this moment. Energy flares from alien defenses illuminated her cockpit, reflecting, in her determined eyes. Her squadron moved in perfect coordination, each fighter weaving, diving, and striking with instinct and courage that no alien sensor could anticipate. The Council's fleets tried to regroup, but the humans' strategy was relentless. Massive, warships surged forward, shields glowing like molten steel, weapons charged with the combined fury of human ingenuity and emotion. The smaller fighters darted between them like lightning, harassing enemy sensors, disrupting formations, and delivering precise strikes that tore through hulls. Kara led a daring squadron into the heart of the enemy line, weaving past energy storms and debris from exploding ships. Her mind was clear, focused, every movement instinctive. She thought of Earth below, the mountains, oceans, and cities she had sworn to protect. She thought of the generations who had fought silently for survival, the stories of courage and endurance etched into human history, and she felt their strength flow through her. The alien fleets faltered. For the first time, hesitation replaced arrogance. Ships tried to retreat, to regroup, to fight defensively, but the humans anticipated every move. Energy beams flared, shields ignited, and the void itself seemed to tremble with the force of humanity's advance. Admiral Hale monitored the strike from the bridge, calm amidst chaos. "Focus on the capital ships," he ordered. "Break their leadership. Show them that humanity cannot be controlled." Massive human dreadnoughts surged forward, concentrating their fire on the alien command vessels. Explosions lit the void like fireworks, sending debris scattering in slow arcs. The alien admirals struggled to maintain control, their orders disrupted by the humans' unpredictable tactics. Somewhere in the chaos, Kara saw a massive alien cruiser falter, its shields failing under precise human fire. She maneuvered her fighter alongside it, releasing a pulse that penetrated the hull. Sparks exploded and the ship shuddered violently. Alien pilots inside froze, their compound eyes widening in disbelief. Humanity had not only survived, they were dominating. Across the battlefield, human medics and engineers worked tirelessly even amid the chaos. Damaged ships were repaired, injured pilots revived, and systems recalibrated with speed and efficiency that no alien could match. Humanity's strength was not only in weapons or tactics, it was in unity, in resilience, in the ability to rise, no matter the odds. Back on the Council's command ships, tension and panic replaced arrogance. Commander Thalnir's eyes reflected disbelief. "They are unstoppable," he hissed. "Every calculation fails. Every plan is broken. They adapt faster than we can respond. They fight with something beyond strategy." "Yes," said a Shikari officer, claws trembling. "They fight with their hearts, their loyalty, their courage. Every ship, every soldier, every human alive contributes to this force. It is unlike anything we have faced." As the battle reached its peak, Admiral Hale watched the alien capital fleet crumble under human fire. "Hold nothing back," he commanded. "We fight for every human, every story, every voice that was ever ignored. Today the galaxy will see what humanity truly is." Kara's squadron pressed forward, dodging energy blasts, weaving through collapsing ships and delivering precise strikes that shattered the alien formation. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with pride. Humanity had endured, adapted, and now they were winning. Not just the battle, but the recognition they had always deserved. Finally, the alien fleets began to retreat, fractured and defeated. Some ships surrendered, others fled into uncharted space, and a stunned silence fell across the battlefield. The human fleet held its position, engines glowing, weapons still ready. The warships that had once waited silently now dominated the void, proving that humans were a force no species could underestimate. Admiral Hale turned to his crew, voice steady, yet filled with quiet pride. "We have survived. We have endured. And we have shown the galaxy that humanity exists, that we will not be silenced, that we will not be ignored." Kara looked out at the stars, scattered with debris and the fading light of defeated alien ships. She thought of Earth, of all the people who had never seen this battle, who had built the fleet, who had hoped and waited. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "We are not weak. We never were. And we will never be silent again." The turning point had come. Humanity had not only survived, it had declared itself unstoppable, undeniable, and proud. The galaxy had expected silence. Humanity had answered with thunder. And somewhere deep in the void, the Council realized that the war was lost. Not because humans were cruel or merciless, but because humans could not be ignored, could not be controlled, and would never bow. Humanity had arrived. Humanity had endured. Humanity had won the right to be heard. The stars shimmered around Kara's fighter, alive with the energy of battle, with the fire of survival, and with the heartbeat of a species that would never whisper. Again, the silence that followed the battle was not calm, it was heavy with awe. The alien fleets had retreated, fractured and defeated, leaving the human armada standing proudly in the void. The galaxy had expected humanity's quiet surrender, their whispers in the dark, their patience mistaken for weakness. Instead, humanity had roared, and that roar echoed across the stars, shaking the foundations of every civilization that had doubted them. Admiral Ryan Hale walked across the bridge of Resolute, his boots echoing softly against the steel floor. The reports were still coming in. Alien ships surrendering, fleeing, or retreating to corners of the galaxy they could no longer control. Hale's eyes reflected the starlight beyond the viewport, but inside, he carried something more than victory. He carried the weight of generations of every human who had survived famine, plague, war, and disaster. Humanity had endured, and now the galaxy knew it. "Status report," he said, voice calm yet commanding. "All sectors report control maintained, Admiral," replied the communications officer. "No human vessel lost in the last engagement. Alien fleets are scattered, their coordination broken." Hale nodded, a quiet pride swelling within him. "We have done what was necessary. Humanity will be recognized, not for conquest, but for existence, for courage, for survival." Lieutenant Kara Voss floated in her fighter above the remnants of the battlefield. Stars reflected in her visor, the debris of alien ships drifting silently around her. She exhaled slowly, the adrenaline of combat giving way to a deep, resonant pride. This was not just a battle won. This was a declaration, a statement to the galaxy that humanity would never be dismissed, would never be ignored, and would never be silenced. She thought of Earth below, a blue jewel alive with cities, oceans, mountains, and life. She thought of her family, her friends, every human who had worked tirelessly to make this moment possible. Every strike she had made, every evasive maneuver, had been for them. She whispered softly into the comms, "We've arrived." Across the galaxy, the Council convened once more, but this time, there was no laughter, no arrogance. Commander Thalnir's limbs trembled as he addressed the assembly. "We were wrong," he admitted, voice heavy. "Humanity is unlike any species we have faced. They fight with heart. They endure with courage. They adapt in ways we cannot predict. They will not be controlled." The Lumari emissary floated silently, their glowing head pulsing slowly. "They are not merely a threat," they said quietly. "They are a force of nature. We underestimated them, and the galaxy will pay for that misjudgment if we do not learn quickly." The Shikari leader growled softly. "They are extraordinary, unpredictable, and unyielding. We cannot calculate them, we cannot contain them, and we cannot ignore them." Back in the human fleet, Admiral Hale addressed his crew. "Today humanity has shown the galaxy that we are alive, that we endure, and that we will not be silenced. Every ship, every pilot, every human aboard these vessels represents the hope of our species. Let this victory be a reminder. The galaxy can no longer assume we will whisper. Humanity has arrived. Humanity stands tall. Humanity endures." Kara watched as smaller fighters formed patterns in the void, waving and signaling to one another in silent triumph. It was not celebration, born of conquest but of recognition. Humanity had fought, and they had been seen, not as weak, not as insignificant, but as a species to be reckoned with, a species whose spirit could shake the stars themselves. Admiral Hale turned to the viewport, his gaze stretching across the scattered remnants of alien fleets. "We fight not for glory," he said softly, "but so that no one ever doubts our place in the universe again. We fight so that our children, and their children, will grow up in a galaxy that knows humanity is more than survival. We are life. We are courage. We are the heartbeat of the stars." Kara felt a warmth inside her chest as she thought of the generations that would inherit this moment. Humanity had faced centuries of neglect, underestimation, and dismissal. But now, the galaxy had learned an unforgettable truth: underestimate humans at your own peril. She looked at the stars, the distant lights of